Hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? I'm here with CLSmith15, and we have kind of a treat today. We are going to be going over AlphaGo versus Lee Sedol. Now, CL, what do you know about these games?
Um, Very little. So I've seen these games in the documentary, the AlphaGo documentary,
Mm-hmm.
and I know sort of the backstory of it being
Reviews.
the first time that an AI has defeated a world class caliber player like Lee Sedol. But as far as like the games themselves go, I don't remember much from the documentary. Um, and actually, I did watch game one live. This was like my first introduction to Go.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I did watch at least part of it live, and I remember watching. I'm pretty sure it was like Michael Redmond was commenting on it,
Mm-hmm.
and
There
yeah,
was
I
there
mean,
was
I
all
didn't
kinds
know
of
anything.
commentaries.
Right? Yeah, and I didn't know anything about Go really, other than like the basic rules, and obviously my Go interest didn't really take hold until this year. So all that to say, as far as the actual moves played in the game and the ideas of the actual games, I know next to nothing. I just know a lot of context around the game.
Gotcha. So let's talk. Let me introduce you to a little bit about the the history of why this event was just so impactful for us. So before this event, there was AlphaGo versus Fan Hui, who was also a Chinese pro, but he wasn't like the top world class pro. He was a pro. He's strong, but not like world class. But he was still a pro. Um, and before we talk about him, we have to talk about how up until before AlphaGo, up until that point, and this is back in 2016, right?
Hmm.
Um, Up until that point, no, the strongest computer in the world was like right above my level. It was like
Right.
5 don, 6 don, right? That was the strongest computer in the world, incomparable to a pro. It was
Yeah.
a joke to compare a computer to a pro. Everyone said, "Don't study with computers; they give you bad habits." Blah blah blah. They have such weird moves that aren't applicable to in human play, right? They're
Hmm.
just bad things to study with. They're weak, and then all of a sudden, this news came out because Fenhui played AlphaGo with Google and then signed an agreement to keep it private until the Google's official release. So they had this information for 6 months to prepare a media sort of outbreak, a media storm, to talk about how an AI beat a professional player. And
So I'm sorry. The result of the Fun Hui AlphaGo match was kept under wraps, or just the games themselves weren't released?
the entire thing, AlphaGo
Nothing.
was
Okay. Wow.
completely private information,
Yeah.
and no one was really talking about how AlphaGo was being developed because until they had something to talk about, right? So they
Right.
developed the technology and they invited Fan Hui and they played 5 official matches and AlphaGo
Hmm.
beat them 5-0.
Right.
And this was like historical because it's unprecedented. They thought it would be another 10 years. They thought it wouldn't be till like 2026 or something. Of course,
Right.
I think we've been saying 10 years for every year at that point. So it was
Yeah.
just like some far distance thing in the future. And then it had happened. And it wasn't just a gradual thing. It had just jumped like 5, 6, 7 ranks.
Right.
So it was this huge news, and they kept it under wraps. Really, really, and did a really, really smart strategy there, a marketing strategy. Developed this whole big announcement plan, and just completely blew up the world with their announcement that a Go AI had beaten a legitimate professional player in an
Right.
even game, not just once, but 5 times in a row.
Right.
They released it, and it was huge news, right? And they're like, "Holy crap!" And everyone's saying, "Oh, but it's not the strongest player in the world." Blah blah blah. He's a weak pro. I can't believe he lost. What a bad representation to humans. And so he was getting all kinds of negative comments, right?
Yeah, I'm
He
sure that
was
was tough
getting,
for him.
oh yeah, he was actually rooting for AlphaGo in the AlphaGo Lee Sedol match, so that way he didn't look so bad
Yeah, I'm
because
sure.
he was getting lit up online.
Yeah.
But in the world, it was still huge news that it was even playing at the level it was playing. It played a very fascinating fascinating game. So then they set up this match with Lee Sedol who technically wasn't the number one player at the time of this playing, but he was the number one player in the world for a good minute, and he was world champion, won several world tournaments, international tournaments and stuff. So he's a good representation of the top player in the world, even if he wasn't exactly the number one rated player in the world at the time of this match. He was a good, famous player. So he would be representing humanity, and he thought it was just going to be an easy $1 million or whatever, right? He just thought it was going to be easy money. Yeah. He's just going to go in, crush the AI. He thought it was, put it this way, his honeymoon was during the event, and he brought his wife and daughter so that way he could celebrate his honeymoon in the middle of the week. I think it was like game 3 was going to be his honeymoon, and he was just going to take them. He was, think of it as more of a vacation, a honeymoon, get a nice hotel, blah, 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 and made a nice little event out of it. And then he lost the first game, which was a huge shock. Everyone expected him to win 5-0. And myself included, I expected him to win 5-0. I didn't tune in until game 3, actually, because it wasn't until... Because I thought I wasn't going to stay up until like 1 a.m. watching this game. I had no reason to. Lee Sedol was going to win. I mean, it would be interesting. I'd just look at the games afterwards. It'd be cool, whatever. I didn't really care. Then I heard he lost twice. Not once, but twice did he lose. And he was down. And he's about to lose the best of 5. Because if he loses the next one, he loses the best of 5. And I heard this, and I was like, holy crap. So I immediately logged on and started watching. From game 3 to game 5, I started watching live. And it was just a huge shock. No one expected it to go this way. Including Lee Sedol, who was very, very depressed on his honeymoon that day. By game 3.
Yeah, the documentary really makes you feel for him.
Yeah, and then game 3, he lost again. And he felt so stressed because he had the pride of the human race on his shoulders, and he was failing them. And then finally in game 4, a glitch came out in the AlphaGo, and he was able to actually come up with a win. And there's a famous line: the entire world cheered when he was able to beat AlphaGo in game 4, and he got like a standing ovation. I think it was such an epic moment. If you watch the documentary, it tells you more about it, but it was an amazing thing. He finally beat it. He was worried he's going to lose the entire series 5-0 or 0-5 or whatever. And then he ended up winning. He ended up he's still to this day, he's the only player who has ever beaten an AI.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
In an even game.
He's the last human to ever beat AlphaGo, probably, right?
It's looking that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to say forever, like a human will never beat an AI. It'll definitely be a historic moment when they do.
Yeah.
But I think they'll probably be able to come up with some strategy that will work specifically against AI, maybe later down the road. But for now, he's the only human who's beaten the AI. And now the AI's leveled up even past where it was then. So now even he couldn't beat it at this point without another glitch. So that is pretty much the history behind this. Hello, Fine Time. Yes, there will be a recording on YouTube later. And thank you for the sub, Dr. Sparkle. So, the first game we're going to look at, I sent you a link in the Google chat.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be Game 2. The games I wanted to look at today was Game 2 and Game 4. Game 4 was the only game he was able to win, and we'll talk a little bit about Move 78. And then Game 2 was actually another significant moment because we'll see a very special move that kind of defined the change in play. That kind of like showed this is where the future's going. So this kind of game shows like the birth of a new era, kind of.
Right. I'm sorry. I do want to take one quick break right just before we start. I'm sorry. I just want to go grab a couple cough drops.
No worries.
I'll be right back.
AlphaGo versus AlphaGo. There is a 50-game series, and no, AlphaGo does not always win as black. AlphaGo actually prefers white due to Comey, but there isn't one color that he specifically wins with. He or she. Machine learning engineer here. I'd be shocked if we ever see another human beat a serious AI at this point. Yeah. No, I would be too. But don't want to say it'll never happen. I don't think I believe it'll never happen. It'll definitely be a huge deal when it does, and I definitely think it'll be an extremely high mountain to climb. But I don't want to say it'll never, ever, ever happen. Just to win one game. I don't know about winning a best of 5 series ever, but winning just one game, maybe someone can pull something out. Maybe a glitch will happen again. You never know. So I don't want to say it'll never happen, but it'll definitely be a significant thing when it does.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
All right.
All right. So you're in the review?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. In this game, AlphaGo is black. I don't have the players, but in this game, AlphaGo is black. Lee Sedol is white. Yep.
Sorry, I was in the wrong scene. As pointed out by Dead Dude. Thanks, Dead Dude. Okay, I'm good now.
Alrighty. So in this game, AlphaGo was black, and Lee Sedol is white. And we see like stopping the 3-4 point. Everyone kind of knows this Joseki. This is kind of a common Joseki. So both players are playing very, very normal, blah, 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 up to this point. And this one looks a little bit strange, but this is actually very common to ignore this cut right here. Simply because they consider that shape light, and you can potentially sacrifice that stone and go here. This is a common little sequence in the bottom right to ignore that and see what white played here. The reason actually is, do you know the responses for black, like here and here?
No, I don't really know this Joseki at all.
Oh, someone needs to study Joseki.
Yeah.
So this Joseki, the simple response is to connect base, so extend out, make a base. This is the Joseki. There's a little bit of a special one, though, to play this Tiger's Mouth. And then we go here. Now we go here. I'll explain why, though, in a minute. But it was here, and then now 2 stones jumps 3 to make a base, so we go here. So those are the 2 options. It depends on what you want to do. This one kind of came up against the Shamari. So if we play out like a normal Shamari, this is where you would normally see that. And go here. Because you know the Shamari wants an extension, right?
Yeah.
So it lowers the extension. That's kind of the common sequence. So the reason this one is because we want to see if white will play here or here. If white plays here, then we can play Tiger's Mouth and get a 3 space, right? And you see how white stone's 2 spaces away?
Right, yeah.
But if we play here, now we would connect, and white's 2 spaces away, right? So It seems like so the idea of this one was just to ask. This was a very common tactic at that point, and so white played here, Tiger's Mouth, and then Lee Sedol played here, and then AlphaGo ignored. And this was kind of like the first shocking move, because you're supposed to make a base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black doesn't have a base. You can be attacked.
Right.
But there's a secret move. This one. This one is kind of a Sente exchange. And this was actually considered a bad move, right? This was saying, no, you're not supposed to fix your opponent. You potentially lose endgame Aji. Like right here. You lose a lot of Aji doing this. So why would you give your opponent solid shape? But the answer is, actually, because after that exchange, this group is considered very light and very easy to Tanuki, which the pros didn't know at that time. So this was actually kind of shocking. They were like, oh, we're just going to Tanuki and play a Chinese opening? You can do that? That's not what our basics tell us, right? You can just Tanuki something, but there's this idea that a light group isn't a weak group. So this idea is kind of, AlphaGo's expanding on that idea, basically, with this.
So when you say light, do you mean basically that it's few stones that are controlling like a decent amount of area? Is that accurate?
So light group is actually this sort of thing that I'm trying to work on how to teach double-digit Qs.
Yeah.
Light group is kind of the category that's in between weak and alive. So a living group has a base, or a strong group has a base and stuff, right? It can't be attacked. Mm-hmm. A weak group, you can pressure it and gain profit. But a light group is that sort of magical place in between that's very unique. It means you can leave it and your opponent can push it, but the profit isn't that much or unbearable, and a big move is bigger than the profit.
Okay.
So it's light and has many directions thrown away, and light shape, so you can easily handle it. and it's also possible to play Sabaki strategies. So a light group is kind of this in between thing that's actually really difficult to learn or understand. Clearly, because AlphaGo says this is light, and every pro in the world said this is a bad move. So it's a very difficult concept, but it's not like it's an unheard of concept. Pros do it all the time. So when you see a pro Tanuki a weak group, they're probably considering it light, and it's just very difficult to understand. But that's what the AI is saying here: is this shape is considered light and Tanukiable.
Gotcha.
Which is why we have the updated Joseki to play 2 space against the Tiger's Mouth. Because now, if you play here, I get 2 extra points. So against the Tiger's Mouth, we pretty much go 2 spaces. Against the Connection, you can still go 1 space. But that's Joseki. That's for your knowledge. But for this, this was like a big shock, right? So Black's treating it lightly. So let's talk about the whole board. The whole board, it's actually it's still pretty close. It's just Black's played a move that people didn't really think was possible so far. But okay, maybe it's just a cool little idea. But if we look at the whole board, it's still even. It's still close. We'll just see how it goes from here. So weak groups first. Black survives. And we play this new Joseki, blah, blah, blah. This is not an unheard of Joseki. This is a very common Joseki. Just wasn't in fashion, I guess. But definitely in fashion now. And then we play. And the AI does have some comments on some of White's moves. Like, some of them weren't as ideal, but nothing, like, groundbreaking. Just some simple, this looks complex, but it's basically I'm giving up the corner to get some influence on the outside. It looks confusing and probably is for you. This isn't a good Joseki for you. But let me just clarify that this is a well-researched variation. So both players are kind of, or I say both players, Lee Sedol at least, and the other pros kind of know this variation. And White gets an influence on the outside, Black gets a corner, and kind of an easy result. And here we just see, because White got thickness, Black is just getting the base.
So are those 2 stones at C6 and D5, are those just going to be sacrificed?
Yes, they're just Aji right now.
Okay.
They're just considered Aji. There's a small chance that A will come back to life if B ever gets weak, because technically it's a cutting stone, but you would not consider that a group. You would just consider that weakness, like potential for something to happen in the future. So yeah, it's not like perfect to have them on the board still for White, but it's not like Black's going to just run away and make a weak group for no good reason. So they pretty much consider dead. You would just consider it Aji. At this point, it's not a group or anything, so you would ignore it. Then we just see simple territory and expanding the position. Both players making territory. And yeah, we just keep playing big moves at this point. So is there anything you don't understand so far?
Well, the move E16, I guess, kind of surprised me because it seems like Black already has stones in that area and the right side of the board was pretty open.
So this is something you can kind of consider as a rule of thumb. A Shamari or a quarter enclosure for the 3-4 point is considered as big as an open side because it's a lot of solid territory right there. And then if you combine it with this stone, that actually is a very large area. Just color that in. That's a lot of points that's very difficult to take away. Not impossible, but difficult. It's a very solid territorial position. So we consider it very valuable because remember, you only need 60 points to win, and a Shamari is immediately 10.
Yeah, it's funny that you say you only need 60 to win. Like, the last game that I played, I think the final score was like 113 to 150 or 111 or something like that. So
yeah, but the stronger you get, the harder it is to make territory because your opponent's also going to take some territory and groups won't die as easily. So usually the rule, this is not true of every single game. This is not certainly not true. But the rule of thumb is if you can get to 60, you're probably playing a good game.
Yeah, I've sort of noticed that, like, in my DDK games, a lot of times both sides will end up with like a huge chunk of territory. Like maybe I have like all of the upper right corner and he has all of the lower left corner, you know, like 80 points of territory for both sides, like just in those areas. But then when I watch like you play or I watch Knight play or Dwyron play or, you know, stronger players play, I don't see any big territories. Like,
yeah, we don't let it happen. Those big territories, you give your opponent 100 points, you're going to lose.
Yeah,
there's only 361 points on the board, and if you say 60 per side, it's 120. Then you include in-game, it's usually 70 to 70. That's 140. If you give your opponent 120, you've given them theirs plus yours practically.
Right.
If the average, usually the amount of territory you both players share is about 140 on average. You don't want to give them 120. That's practically half of your territory you're giving to them.
Right.
So yeah, usually you don't let that happen. The only way that usually happens is either both players just said, "Okay, we're both going to have territory," which is very, very rare that we're just going to let that, like, just make that agreement. Both players making that agreement.
It seems like DDKs like that, and stronger players don't like that. So
yeah, so DDKs I think are just afraid to go in, and strong players are like, we're not that nice.
Yeah,
you're going to have to work for this territory.
Right.
But then it's not like it never happens. It's just like not as common, right? It's not as common. You get two passive players that are like, I'll make mine if you make yours. Okay, let's just share the board. No, I want more than you. I don't want you to have yours. I want mine and you not to have yours. And they're like, okay, if you're going to take mine, then I'll take yours, and then both players don't get territory. So that's usually what happens. So yeah, this one is kind of like along the lines of, hey, I just want a Shamari. A Shamari can be considered as big as an open side. And since White has a stone right here, this also supports an invasion. So if we just play on the right side, this also supports going in and stopping the Shamari.
Yeah.
Which would possibly make the A stone weak. So there's also that little tidbit of information as well. So you can also kind of consider it like making a base because you have a stone near you.
Right.
So there's kind of like two simple ideas of I want a base, but I also am still playing a big move. So it's kind of like just a calm sort of move. So nothing fancy, just calm. Kick. This is something I was actually learning around this time, was that you can kick without a pincer. Back then, it was common to say kick was bad unless you have the pincer stone.
Right.
Because with the pincer stone, it's really good because they can't make a 2-space or a 3-space extension. So they're really cramped. And the reason you usually wouldn't do it is because technically the 3/3 is still open. But in this case, because White's cramped, White doesn't have time to do it. And if you just play this way, doot, Atari, doot. I don't know if you know this sequence or not. This is kind of a common pattern. The idea is White can take some points in the corner due to the weakness of this Atari. So the kick leaves Aji at the 3/3. That's the big note. That's the big thing you want to remember. The kick leaves Aji at the 3/3 because of that special Atari right here. And then this is the variation to just handle it. So this is something you would teach beginners, but it was coming out that a kick actually might not be that big of a deal, because if we play this way, we can actually throw a stone inside and then sacrifice it, and now you can see there is no Aji at the 3/3. Sure, but you also made your opponent strong in exchange.
Yeah.
So this is something I was studying and trying to learn at the time. So it was kind of it wasn't an unheard of move either. It's just I wanted to point it out because you probably don't know about the 3/3 stuff. But yeah, so kick, just another normal move, but now you know a little bit about the follow-ups.
Yeah, at some point someone had told me like that I shouldn't kick in this circumstance, so that's interesting to know.
Well, you don't kick without understanding that you're leaving Aji behind, so you don't really kick without a good reason.
Yeah.
If you really want to kick, just remember that you can easily sacrifice a stone to get territory. But modern style says you don't want to just make your opponent strong, so it's usually considered not good because of that reason. But it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you could do it at your level just fine. I mean, just sacrifice a stone. Yeah. Both of you are strong. No one's really going to get punished for that, right?
Right.
Maybe at the high level, you probably should stop doing it because you need to leave Aji to potentially have forcing moves in the future. But if you're just wanting territory, I mean, who cares?
Right.
We're not top players, so we're good. So that's just something to know about the kick. This is the first really strange move to me. This is the first one I don't really understand because I don't really understand why not here.
Right.
Probably he's trying to keep the Aji of the 3/3 open. This is my thinking. It's just I would have to ask. I'd be like, is that the reason you did it? I don't know. I mean, just a minor thing. Normally 2 stones jumps 3, so whenever they don't do a basic, you have to ask, okay, what special reason do they have? Probably it's the 3/3 Aji. And now, where do you think you would play? Where would you want to play? Follow your basics. Where would you play?
Well, I mean, there's not really an open corner or side left that I see. um, so, I mean, the first thing that like immediately comes to mind is like maybe trying to sort of develop the top. Um, so I don't know, something like O14, D14, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I agree. This is completely what I would play. Something
Okay.
like this, a capping move here.
Yeah.
The other option is look for any weaknesses. So maybe you could poke those 3 stones right there since they're a little bit cramped because they're not 3 space.
I looked at maybe putting something there. I was just worried that like I was already kind of pincered there.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
this is just another idea. I agree.
right.
I like developing the top much better. Like that's what I would
Okay.
do. What level are you, CLSmith?
I'm 13Q.
13Q. Nice. I didn't.
Yeah, I just hit 13 like a day or two ago.
Nice. I didn't know you got past. I didn't know you got past 15Q. That's cool.
Yeah, I'd been sitting at 14. Like I hit 14 and then I went back down to like 17 and then I worked back to 14. I'd been there for a while and then I'm like barely 13 right now. Like if I lose my next game, I'll probably be 14 again.
But hey, you're like, how long have you been playing? Just like 3 months now? 2 months?
Yeah,
3
I think
months?
about 2.5. I think it was like start of June.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little over 2 months.
Really, it's really impressive. Really impressive.
Yeah, well, you've helped a lot, and there've been other people in Twitch and YouTube that have helped a lot. So
that's cool. Congrats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Largest framework is the top side. Develop it, right? Seems normal.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is look for weakness. Usually, develop the biggest area, or deal with the biggest area, or develop weakness. This is like common basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But AlphaGo played here.
Yeah, so I remember that like the one move I remembered from the documentary was that there was a 5th line shoulder hit that everyone was like, "Whoa, this is the craziest move I've ever seen."
3rd line shoulder hit is maybe common for developing, but 5th line or like 4th line shoulder hit, like to shoulder hit a 3rd line stone, but 5th line shoulder hit, that's 4th line territory. That's a lot of freaking territory. Yeah. It's considered a horrible thing to just let your opponent just get 4th line territory.
And now this is right after Lee Sedol played Q11, right? There haven't been any moves in between.
Yeah. So do
you think this was like punishing, sort of? Because you said you thought Q11 was maybe a little strange, maybe not bad.
It's a little bit slack, but for special reasons.
Right.
But this is kind of punishing that. But the bigger point that this move is making is that AlphaGo is telling the world that the center is very, very, very important.
Right.
Whereas the top players at the time were like corner and sides make the territory and make a lot of points. And especially Korea, they were always about stopping points and attacking and blah, blah, blah. All the fights, maximize your points, minimize theirs, just get territory on the side, right? The center was just for running fights. That's all the center was for. The center is just, you leave it blank, and that's for running fights. AlphaGo came along and said, hey, no, you guys are doing it wrong. The center is very important to have control over for winning the game. Even if your opponent gets 4th line territory, if I control the center, I'm going to be ahead. That's what AlphaGo is saying here. And this was completely redefining what we knew. Like, we hadn't seen something like this since like Go Seigen. Do you know a little bit about Go Seigen?
I've heard the term, but I don't know.
So if you look like before Go Seigen era, there was only...
Now, is that a person or is that like a...
So that's his like title. He's like a Go Sage.
Okay.
He's a Go Sage. So before that, it was just 3-4 points, and then we would approach. Then we had Komi, so we'd make other 3-4 points and Shamaris and blah, blah, blah. He is very famous for his star point 3-3 Tengen.
Oh, okay.
He pretty much, he and I think another guy, pretty much said, hey, 3-4 is not the only way to play. There's other ways to play. We can do, the Shinfuseki movement. There's other ways to play. We can play star points. We can play for influence. We can do 3-3s. We can do other stuff besides just a 3-4 point. We don't have to just make territory. We can make thickness and influence and moyos. Sanrensei was unheard of, and that came about. And Takamiya Masaki became a 9-dan professional in Japan and won titles with Sanrensei. And he was known as the guy who could play a large influence game. He was very fun to watch. So the Shin Fuseki movement, or the new Fuseki era, basically, is the last big thing. And this move kind of is kind of just as famous as that now. This shows that, hey, there's a new way to play now.
Right.
The center is important, or having control of the center is important, because you can do so much stuff. You can use it to lead the fights. You'll have the advantage of the fights. You can use it to support invasions. Blah blah blah. There's a lot of things about the center that even I don't understand yet, but it's just like redefined our knowledge. And at this point, there was kind of a euphoria in the Go world that said, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't have to play what traditionally is said good moves or bad moves and stuff. We can have more freedom to experiment.
Right. Yeah.
And this was a huge feeling after the AlphaGo match that came around in all the Go community, was this sense of freedom to experiment with new ways of playing. And basically this was saying, AlphaGo also saying that, hey, I'm not only building influence, but I'm also working with my stones in a very effective and efficient manner. So, like, having stones work together, no matter what your plan is usually more effective than having no plan. Someone asked how AlphaGo made his movements. Well, AlphaGo had a human that was playing the moves for him. So yeah, this was kind of the special move, but let's continue with the game here. And now we get to the non-historic moves, but still a big history in the making.
So can I ask a question about Lee Sedol's response here? So he played P11. I guess, like, to me it seems like the idea of the shoulder hit is like, okay, if you play Q10 and say you're going to take the fourth line territory, then Black will play P11, and then you've kind of got three sides.
And Black will pull back?
P9 is what Black would do. Okay, I was thinking P11.
Something like this.
But the idea is just, I'm going to, like, I kind of have three sides of a bowl built, and I'm going to try to get center points. So I guess that's why Lee Sedol played P11, because he realized after this move that the idea was that Black wanted to make points in the center. So he's going to try to prevent that.
Yeah, it's kind of defensive while also trying to handle the center. I mean, I'm not strong enough to answer your question perfectly. But the idea is that he thought this was just too passive.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what it was. This is the normal move to block the fourth line territory, and then Black walks back. Maybe something like this or this. But you can see that Black gets a lot of thickness in the center. And that was Black's plan. You don't want to just give Black their plan.
Right.
So he thought that was too passive, and so he goes for a little bit more resisting, which was the common Korean mindset, was resist your opponent's plan. Don't let them have their plan so easily. Fight it out. Just fight. Don't let them have it. Like, trip them. Kick them in the face.
Yeah.
Do something. Right? Don't let them have their plan. This was kind of the mindset, is fight it out and read.
Yeah.
All right, and then AlphaGo just continues to develop. And remember that cutting stone, the Aji that we talked about earlier?
Right,
He's kind of like threatening to activate that a little bit. And here you can actually see him activating it, because AlphaGo didn't just go for the kill. Rather, AlphaGo's like, I'm going to, Lee Sedol, not AlphaGo. Lee Sedol said, I'm going to not let you have these points, because Black actually does have a lot of points right now. Not let you have these points, and I'm going to fight with this area, because this is, again, don't let them have their plan. Fight it out. That's the Korean style. Now it's kind of like AI stuff, but this was the style. Don't resist your opponent and fight and outread them. So AlphaGo activates it, and now we see a big fight come about from here. But one thing that you want to keep an eye on is how these two stones just kind of radiate on every single fight. And it's just this little idea that if I want to start a fight, I'm going to fight you in your area, you might have the advantage, but blah blah blah, and then you just realize how these two stones are just kind of supporting the fight from afar, because having control of the center makes the fights easier for you. It sounds simple and obvious, but I mean, it's just this new idea that, like, oh hey, having stones in the center, that's useful.
Yeah.
And now we get into really complex reading that I can't explain to you. But basically, white's just resisting black, and of course, white has a weak group because there's not even an eye on the side right now. There's not hardly any eye space right now. So black is completely surrounding white. It looks very dangerous, but Lee Sedol is very well known for dealing with these types of situations and being able to handle them with like expert level reading.
Right.
So it looks dangerous for white, but Lee Sedol is the type of player who can usually handle this. So probably he's got this.
Yeah.
It's not a situation I would want to be in, but Lee Sedol is like known for handling crap like this.
Gotcha.
Just Lee Sedol is one of those players you don't copy, but they're fun to watch. So we see a big fight coming out in the center. Now both players, like, it's just a big fight to resist the other one right now, and you can see Lee Sedol is actually handling it very nicely, utilizing the weakness of those stones coming out. And now, of course, weak groups first. Black's playing on the weak group. This one, I think, is just to make stronger shape blocking and make it a false eye. This shape is a little bit ugly because of this. So that's all that. That's the reason they need to fix the Atari. It's just the empty triangles, bad shape. Bad liberties.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, empty triangles, bad shape. Empty triangles, bad liberties. Yeah, don't you have like an emote in your chat for like don't make empty triangles?
Yeah, it's just empty triangles with a big red X through them.
Yeah,
so,
sorry.
Yeah, there it is. Now
Lee's,
people are using them.
Lee's white. I don't know why I keep saying the wrong names. But yeah, that's all that was. Empty triangle, bad shape.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, AlphaGo's black, Lee Sedol's white. This is actually quite interesting. This is sort of a speed defense play. It's not exactly obvious how it works. I don't really want to get into variations because I'd probably be wrong. But all this is just supporting the A group in a very fast way. Very fast and lightweight. It's a little bit sabaki. Do you know what the term sabaki?
Basically just means sort of playing in a nimble style, I guess, where you leave a lot of spaces between your stones, but play fast flexibly, I guess.
Yeah, fast but loose.
Right.
Speed for a little bit. Be willing to sacrifice some of it if you need to, but basically fast, loose.
Right.
That's all it is. This is just, protect, like, weaknesses first. Protect that stone from getting cut off. Because there is a... Put a stone on here. There is a little bit of Aji right here, so all he's doing is just peep. Get strength while peeping.
Yeah. I just noticed something else about this game that I want to ask about. Is White getting 7.5 points of Komi here?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
7.5.
Was that common at the time? I thought 6.5 was like standard.
Yeah, 6.5 is common, but 7.5 was coming around, and it's still actually around. It's still a big debate of 6.5, 7.5 right now. So okay. Yeah, 7.5 is common right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just a big debate. Is it 6.5? Is it 7.5? I mean, like, how do you make it perfectly even? Blah blah blah.
Right,
how do we judge when we don't even know the perfect game? So it's a big thing. But White does give, or AlphaGo does give White a bit of an advantage with 7.5 point Komi. So AlphaGo likes 7.5 Komi. So here we go. Here, this is actually a little bit interesting timing. We see that treating a group as light again. So this group is technically still a weak group.
Yeah.
But there are stones that it can run to, like here and here and here even. So it's just Black's just saying that if you attack me, the profit isn't, like, I'm not gonna die, and the profit isn't gonna be bigger than this right side. So I'm just gonna go on the right side and prevent the points. So it's a little bit of treating it lightly again. So yeah, weak groups first, or weaknesses first, but there's that magic area of light groups. That's all it is. Right. Also, if you look at this group, the eye space isn't perfect. It's still only like 4 to 6 for eyes. Excuse me. So White is not only like preventing the right to kind of like, take advantage of the fact that White didn't block the right. So Black is just preventing the points here, while also making sure that White stays kind of tight and a little bit cramped. So not comfortable, not like perfectly comfortable. It's just preventing points, unsettling, very slightly unsettling, and just defense. And then there's that fixing the 3/3 Aji. So remember, second line is for special stuff. Well, this is like poking white space while also fixing that 3/3 Aji, which is very good for territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And this still fixes the 3/3 Aji. So if you go here, then here, you can't just cut because I can capture.
What if you what if white just plays S15 first?
Yeah, that's fine because then I just block and have my territory, right?
Yeah, whenever I see that like potential second line cut, I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So
When you get strong enough, you'll realize the second line cut's only a couple points. So yeah, it's points, but it's only a few points. The bigger issue is the 3/3 invasion, and that stone helps the 3/3 invasion, which was all it was for. So now black just goes and makes more points.
Gotcha.
All right. So here, this is just getting back into the center. Make sure black doesn't get the center. Black develops the center and stays strong. I would expect to see, like here, I don't remember the rest of the game. I would expect to see this group start getting pressured a little bit soon, because remember it isn't settled, and white did get another stone right here. So maybe something would happen soon. Oh.
So what do you think like the score is? Where does this game stand? Like say before he cuts at S15.
From what I know, because counting the score, like I can't give you the perfect count. You would need an AI for that. But the way that they explain how the score works and how it worked is AlphaGo never really took a lead in the sense of I just played an exchange and now I have the lead. AlphaGo just had a gradual growth of a lead. It was just very gradual. So the game is still close. If it wasn't close, Lee Sedol would have resigned. But
because like I look at it and it like I see black with the entire top side of the board, and that just looks scary to me. Like I see white has some points on the left, some points on the right, but it like that top just looks really scary to me. And like my first blush I'd be inclined to think that black is just like totally winning, but obviously that can't be the case.
I don't get me wrong, I agree with you, but if we just look at the territory, white has this area, this area, and this area. But if you look at black only has this area, aside from the top. So the only territory for black is this area.
Yeah, so you're not counting like anything in the center, like say around, that area.
This is definitely something to think about, but if right now there's only points right here.
Okay.
Those are the only points, technically speaking. Technically speaking, because white can just, if we take a white stone and just place it like right here, you can't kill that stone. So it's not points yet.
Okay.
The other thing to think about is there is some moves right here. So that section isn't perfect either.
Yeah.
There's also some end-game questions right here. Are you going to just let me reduce? Are you going to try to kill me? Then maybe I can break in. So it looks bigger than it is.
I think I tend to overestimate how quickly like a framework can become just pure points.
It's not that you overestimate; it's that you don't know the variations to reduce it. So for you, it is very large because you couldn't reduce. You don't have the tactics yet, right? And that's fine. That's nothing against you. It's just you haven't learned it yet. Sure. But it is the top left is a little bit smaller than it looks because there are potential invasions and Aji in there. The top right, though, is really, really large. That one's practically secure. So you can see white actually playing right here. This is just to force black to secure it because white says there's no invasion in there. So I'm going to force you to secure it in Sente and get a couple points in Sente. And if you ignore, which looks like black did ignore, then I have the follow-up to go here. Oh, not here. Sorry. To reduce, right?
Okay.
And this is actually a cool tactic I think everyone in chat should know. If you have a tiger's mouth like this for black and you play a Hane, you cannot Atari. You cannot do this. Because this Ko, in this case it's just a Ko like this, but assuming this stone was like right here or something, it's still the same thing. Atari, connect, peep, there, life. So with this shape, even if you were connected without the Ko or double Atari or whatever, it would be a Ko to threaten your entire corner. So whether this stone is here or one above, the Hane at 1 against the Tiger's Mouth, when the A stone has a lack of liberties and there's a peep at B, like this, you can't block here. There's too much. In this case, it's just a double Atari. So it's a ko, but it's still a ko for your half your corner. So it's a huge ko. So in this case, there's just a double Atari. But even if there wasn't, and we could connect, it would still be a peep in life. Two eyes. So it's just a very important endgame shape to remember. So, with that being said, this is kind of why white is okay with taking here, is because white's looking at all the potential Aji in the corner, the endgame, all that stuff, and then the peeps here. White is kind of keeping an eye on all of the Aji and saying, hey, I think that Aji's worth it. Plus, this is an I for this group. So now you can't push me around anymore. So it kind of like settled while also threatening a lot of endgame points.
Gotcha.
Now, this one is also big. So if we just play here, now you and I kind of agree the top is really big.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to make a comeback and go?
I guess my idea would be to say, I'm going to try to destroy your territory, and if you try to destroy mine, then that's fine, because your territory is worth more right now. But I don't know how to even begin with that with white.
Well,
going at this top.
The biggest chance for you to make a comeback is weakness in your opponent's position.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you can utilize that effectively to support an invasion, or maybe you get a kill, or maybe you run it into an area, or maybe you build points while attacking it. Basically, weakness begets profit. So if you can utilize that weakness to get profit somehow, then you can catch up.
Yeah. Okay.
So
makes sense.
If you think about it, the only weakness for black is the A group. So it's kind of understandable why AlphaGo went here. So we kind of see both players kind of having their own plan right now. And we're too weak to say if one's right or the other one's right. What's important is just we understand what they're after, what they're doing, what their move does. We're not trying to say what's the best move. We're not trying to say what they're wrong or anything like that. All we're doing is trying to understand what's going on, and that's pretty much all this move is. It looks weird timed, but all black's doing is saying, I'm going to win. I'm going to prevent you making a comeback. White was settling while threatening points. That's all that's really happening here.
Yeah, and one thing I remember them saying in the documentary is like, AlphaGo doesn't care like by how many points it wins. Like if there's a move where it thinks it will win by 50 points 51% of the time, then it's going to prefer a move where it wins by 5 points 90% of the time.
Yes, that's called the percentage points. This is actually a good example of that. Let's say, for example, I want to maximize the difference. Well, then I might play here or something, or here, to prevent all of that in game. Or I might just, do something extra to make more points and leave weakness and say, I'll just deal with it. Yeah. I'll just trust my reading and deal with it because I want more points. I want to maximize my game. That was kind of the common thought. But AlphaGo said, no, you already have more points. Take the play that gives them the least amount of chance to make a comeback.
Right.
And that's hard to make that distinction. It's a very subtle difference. It sounds intuitive to say maximizing the points and the score difference, it increases your chance to win. But apparently that's not true. According to machine learning, having a lead and then preventing potential mess ups or preventing your opponent from having attacks and stuff is actually the way to play.
Right.
Because you decrease the chance for something to go wrong with an uncertain amount of information. If you had the perfect amount of information, you would say, okay, yeah, of course, maximize the points. But in this case, it's like, do you want to leave risk just to get a little bit more reward, even though the result isn't going to change? If the result's not going to change, then take the least risky path to get there. Yeah. If you have a 90% chance to win by 1 point, or you want to take the 70% chance to win by 5 points, you should take the 90% chance.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. But for that to be effective, you have to accurately be able to.
Yeah. So one thing the AI
assess those numbers.
is really, really good at is judgment.
Right.
It's an insanely good at judgment and reading for that matter. It can read like 50, 60, 70 moves ahead. Plus all the branches, you're talking like thousands of moves. Right. Pros can't even read that. Pros can read hundreds of moves, but not thousands. Not like the AI. But the AI also wastes time on a lot of stuff. So pros probably have a little bit better intuition, but AI has a lot better judgment. But that's also because the AI has a lot more move branches to work with, including the stupid ones. Yeah. So because the AI has thousands of moves in its head instead of hundreds, it can make a much better judgment call. And that's the difference between AI and top pros. Because top professional players, world-class professionals, play the AI's top like 3 moves or top 5 moves 95% of the time. But the reason they can't play the top move is because they have to work with less information and still make a judgment call. And they can't make as accurate of a judgment call. That's the big difference.
Right.
So here we just see Lee Sedol looking to just poke stuff, and AlphaGo, kind of like dancing, like easily dealing with it. But yeah, and see what I mean?
Yeah, like that's a stone that I'd be terrified to play that because I just don't see where that white stone's ever going to go.
But if you don't have enough points.
Right. Yeah.
So this is why Lee Sedol wasn't losing or wasn't lost yet. Lee Sedol's losing for sure. Lee Sedol's definitely behind. AlphaGo just, if you look at AlphaGo's shapes and patterns, this is one thing I've actually been researching personally is old Japanese games. Look at the shapes of AlphaGo and how like solid they are, how connected they are, how basic shapes, how many basic shapes AlphaGo is just using, and you can see like how just nice and pretty it is and how easily they work together. So when you see something like this, you're not really scared of it, and it actually is hard to even do as white because your opponent's just so solid. So this is something I think if you want to play like the AI and you study AI, your middle game should reflect old Japanese games with solid shapes with modern theories and modern direction of play. So old shapes are much better than I guess modern shapes because they're so solid and they work together so nicely, but you have to have the modern direction of play, if that makes sense. So there is that sort of idea. If you look at how solid black is, that's actually a little bit it's something that we haven't seen for a while, at least especially in Korean play, because it's always fight in Korean play at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas an AlphaGo's just like, no, I'm just gonna make some territory, just I get one more point than you here, one more point than you here, one more point than you here. Oh, we're 80 moves in and I'm up by like 7 or 8 points, right? And White has to do this daring invasion. So. The reason it looks so scary is because of the choices that AlphaGo's making. It's not that this move's wrong or anything. It's just it looks scary to implement because your opponent is so solid. And that's actually something you can take and learn and apply in your own games. But again, this is Lee Sedol. He's really good at doing these moves. So,
gotcha.
If you think this is scary, have you seen the bottom? Do you remember the bottom position?
I guess that's true. Yeah,
Lee Sedol's. This is like nothing for Lee Sedol. And the amount of reading that they do at this level is just insane. So, no, it's nothing. This one's actually very interesting. This one I wouldn't be able to play myself, just because it looks so passive to the fight. But again, it's very solid and just defends Black's position. Because
it looks like it just ignores that stone. It looks like it just ignores G17.
It kind of ignores, but not quite, but kind of, right? Yeah. So let's just say we just play something stupid and just defend. Later, maybe while White runs away and we just do something stupid and White runs away, you can notice that the A group is actually not connected to anything.
Yeah.
So AlphaGo's like, okay, I'm just going to fix. I have enough territory. I'm going to fix. And now, if you look at the White stone, you're like, oh, yeah, he ignored the fight. But where's that stone going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea.
It can't go this way anymore. Oh, give me the pen. It can't go this way anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so for the chat and for the YouTube video, let me explain. A cat jumped on my computer and hit the power button. And then when I went to turn it back on, Windows had an update. So that was terrible. Okay, so we are back with this. Now, what I was explaining was When black played this move, okay, they said it's better now. When black played this move, it not only supports the only weakness black has on the board, but it also like prevents a running direction.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I lost half my viewers. Oh my god.
Yeah. They'll come back. Some of them will come back.
Get some rip and chap. Classy rip. Okay. Do you have any more questions about this move?
No. I think.
All right. So this is actually more. This move by AlphaGo is actually more surprising than this move, honestly. I would expect something more direct, like maybe here or a kick or something, or maybe just undercut. Something on that stone. This is very calm and collected, I guess. So yeah, this is just staying connected while also threatening the territory on the left. Or just fixing. These are just forcing moves.
Okay, wait. So when AlphaGo plays C12, like when I see that, like if I'm looking at that as the black player, I'm like, okay, well then white can play D12, and then I'm cut.
Yeah, but I go down.
So my stones are the ones getting in trouble.
Right.
The C14, C13
Whenever you see this where they play a move that obviously can be cut and then their opponent doesn't cut it, you have to assume that there's a variation that you don't see.
Right, yeah.
So if it was an amateur game, yeah, I would check, but if it's a pro game, you can almost guarantee there's a variation you don't see. And if you want to read it out, sure, but we just have to assume like that this works for black.
Yeah, I mean it looks dangerous, right? I mean, it makes sense that those white stones are maybe in more trouble than the black stones.
All right. So the reason white push up instead of walking back is, yes, white loses a couple points here, but white also gains the potential to push here. Mm-hmm. So it's just points. This is just fancy way of maximizing the points. They're just blocking, but they're trying to get points.
Right.
All right. So now we start the attack. So now black is super solid, super strong. White is in black's area of control. So now black starts the power attack by poking the shape and start threatening. Ooh, this is interesting. Are we just gonna sacrifice this? Let's see what happens first. Okay. Okay. So this is interesting. This is a very special move because it's of a very remember his C stone right here?
Yeah.
So if we try to cut and just get the points, that's bad.
Yeah, that doesn't look good.
So this is again is just a fancy way. Instead of connecting, I'm just gonna connect because of this specific variation and be out one line more than I was.
Yeah.
This is what Lee Sedol is really good at, is getting just a little bit more because of a very specific variation.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So here you can see black's moves are so calm though. Black's just like, okay, I'm just gonna block my territory. Yeah. And now white's getting out, and black ends up getting the territory. Just look how this sequence played out. I just love it for black. Yeah, white's being all fancy this, fancy that, reading this, reading black. Black's just like, okay, I'm just gonna take my territory, stay solid, stay connected.
Right.
It just seems so simple.
Ahead.
It just seems so simple.
Yeah.
And now, remember how I said there was stuff to do before? Now there's not, right? Now it's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. And now white's still weak. Right here, white could just run away, right, with something like over here or something. But white is trying to defend while counterattacking. Mm-hmm. So this is actually looking at the disconnects right here.
Right.
So if black does something over here, locally you can be cut. So black could just defend, but black also wants to be on the outside. This is where AlphaGo. This is where AlphaGo says, yeah, I could just defend, but you're also weak, and this is a good, solid, strong defense. Because I have Miai. I have Miai to either connect A or connect over to the B stones.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just black's still kind of being solid, but also keeping weaknesses in mind. Here, you can see this is where white is trying to defend while counterattacking. So this is actually looking at the disconnects right here. So if black does something over here, locally you can be cut. So if black does something over here, locally you can be cut. So This is very nice. He's still staying on the weak group. So at this point, I would say, like for me, I would think that okay, A was a mistake. I should have just fixed because this just looks like a waste of stone.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just reduces, and it's not that big of a deal. So this is a fight that's pretty much beyond me. But all we're doing is just keeping track, just understanding that they're defending while attacking. That's all that's happening right now. It's just variations that are kind of beyond us. That's all we need to understand. This is actually interesting. White is trying to keep black cut to destroy that center. Remember earlier you said that center? White is destroying that in a Sente way while also leaving weakness, and black's trying to take advantage of that weakness since white destroyed the points. Or ignored it for the points. And now we're going back. At some point I would expect to see... Oh, this is cool. Yeah. At some point I would expect to see someone get to endgame soon, but there's still so much weakness with this A group that is still uncertain, and white is ignoring A to get stuff in the B area, so it's like this fight going back and forth of who's the one really...
Wait, where's the B area? I don't see a B. There, I see it now. I think I just missed it. Okay.
Yeah, so the B stones on the bottom are threatening a lot of the sections on the bottom, so white is neglecting weakness to gain more value somewhere else,
right?
Because white's losing, so white has to like do more. So that's understandable. And black's just kind of dealing with it, I guess. So this is just a fight for white's trying to come up with complicate the game to create a chance to come back. So this is not a bad idea for white actually, because if white's losing, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because if we were reviewing this like an AI, it would show the score, and I'm pretty sure the score is black's ahead by several points. And for a pro, more than like 3 points is a lot.
Yeah.
So I can understand why Lee Sedol is like really pushing it right now to try and come up with something. And I think black's just staying solid. Poke. Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah, he's really pushing it. Like look at this. It's not just a simple reduction. He's just, and then black's just like, okay, you can get out, and I'll just get these. Black just calmly answers it.
Yeah, he just doesn't
like,
care.
Yeah, he's like, okay, you take the quarter. Okay, I'll take these 4 stones then and make it up. I still have a territorial lead. White trying to peep and make the Yosei. Black's like, you're still neglecting your weak group. Oh, this is so painful. I'm sure that the AI would explain this to us better, or maybe counting would explain this to us better. But basically, black lost this area.
Yeah, he lost a lot there.
But gained this area.
Yeah,
he gained all of those dead stones.
So that's just going to be territory for black. Like, there's nothing white can do to try to fight here.
Yeah, so how do you connect those white stones out? There's no way to connect them out.
Yeah, I don't know. It just looks... I mean, to me, it just looks like a mess where everyone's stones are weak, but I guess...
Right.
I guess white has fewer liberties. So.
Yeah, so it might be a little difficult for you to see, but what I see is that A and B are dead. They're just straight up dead in exchange for the corner. So white, or Lee Sedol, was trying to tanuki a lot and complicate the game and create fights in different sections of the board and just outfight and outread, because that's what he's good at. That he's using...
Yeah, and he had to take risks.
Yeah, he had to do extra because he's losing. And you just see AlphaGo just like, I'm not a human. I don't get scared. I'm just going to make more points. You take these points, I'll take these points. I get more. You take these points, I'll get these points. I get more. And he's just calmly analyzing which the value of each one is and saying, okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just get points. And it's... Oh, wow. Okay, so this threatens to connect to the death stones, right? So this has to have meaning.
Yeah.
The only meaning that I can find is these stones aren't connected technically.
Right.
So, yeah, if he connects, then probably he loses another group. Like maybe something like this. Or maybe here. Yeah, maybe something like this. So, he defends, so it looks like my theory's correct. Now, because, like, yeah, you know, those 5 stones are 10 points? Well, these other stones are more than 10 points. And he just keeps playing on the big move. He's playing on the big move, and so white is like struggling to make territory. This is just looks like a territory move to me.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm gonna get like 5-6 points over here.
Seems like a sad move to play like a second line move at this point.
Well, if you realize it's about territory, and if the difference is like less than 10 points, getting 5 points is actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, I guess I would just I would want to play R9, not S9, but I'm sure there's some.
Yeah.
There's a reason he can't do that. Like maybe black can push in or something.
Yeah. So I think there's some Aji over here to push it in. So this must get a little bit more value.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know the variations. Yeah. We just have to assume that this one is better than yours.
Right. Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
I think I agree with you that this one looks right. Maybe there's a Tsuji here though.
Yeah,
that looks like it. The Tsuji.
I can never.
That looks like
figure out what happens with those.
That might be the Tsuji. Like here, Hane, and then crosscut. That might be it. Something like that.
Yeah.
Something cool like that. Something that we're not seeing. How close is the game? AlphaGo is up by quite a bit, but for pro standards, but for our standards, it's still relatively close. But for pro standards, AlphaGo is winning by quite a lot. So, this one, if I go here, double Atari, connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember that? Oh my gosh, just doesn't care.
Yeah, this is pretty merciless.
Wow. So yeah, connect. I'll just get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points in Sensei. Yeah, white Tanuki, but white's supposed to fix or whatever. So I'll just get 8 points in Sensei. You know how you get 5, 6 points on the right in Gote? I'll just get 8 in Sensei. No big deal. Oh, you want to take those points? Okay, then I'll just kill your group. The trades here are just insane.
Yeah, a lot of it is pretty beyond me, I think.
Well, it's just the AI's counting perfectly, and AlphaGo's or Lee Sedol's trying to make it really complex in game, and AlphaGo is just like, no, I know how to do addition and subtraction.
Right. Yeah.
I can do addition and subtraction. This even before AlphaGo, AIs have always been better at endgame because endgame is just calculation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So AIs were always really good at endgame. That's something they were just good at. So AlphaGo, on top of his high-level skill,
insanely good at
his endgame's just going to be ridiculous. Yeah. So there's just no chance. White tried really hard to make it complex and confusing, and you can just see black just made points left and right. Just easily handled it. And resign. Actually, no, this isn't resign. What is the result? Information. The results resign. It's just usually you don't see the resign on the turn that you played or something, but I think he was just defeated at this point.
Yeah. It sounded like he struggled quite a bit psychologically with this match, and I know this was at this point, now he's down 2-0-2.
Yeah, this is
when he thought he was going to win 5-0.
Yeah, the first game he was like, maybe it's a fluke. This game he was like, all right, let's focus. And then he got beat again. He's like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I think also he talked about how this game he couldn't, it was just so hard because it felt so empty, because with a human you get some sort of emotion,
right?
And this one, it just felt so cold and empty. And you can kind of feel that in the end game. You can feel that cold calculation, not that emotion, not that getting confused or anything. And Lee Sedol was trying to do human level tactics, I'm going to make this complex and complicated for you. You have to count all this and blah blah blah. And AlphaGo just calm, cold, and calculating.
Yeah, that tactic doesn't really work
against
the computer.
This end game is kind of just psychological damage at this point. It's like, yeah, no, emotion doesn't work on me. You're facing a machine and you suck. So that's all it is.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt so much to just play against this kind of opponent, where you're trying to like, oh, you want to make this corner exchange or that exchange? What do you want to do? I'm gonna make it complicated, and he just doesn't care. He's like, okay, then I'll just make points. I'll make points here. This is bigger. 2 points more than this. I don't care about that. I'm just gonna make points. I don't care about that. I'm just gonna make points. And you're over here like fighting for the human race, trying to make it complex, and AlphaGo is like, I don't care. Yeah. I'm just gonna make points. Human race doesn't matter. Just make points. So yeah, at this point he was like very emotionally devastated. And then after this game, if we look at this game and think tomorrow's his honeymoon, and his wife and his wife and daughter are watching.
Yeah, it does kind of ruin your honeymoon.
Yeah, you're representing the human race. You're getting destroyed by this empty, cold machine, and your wife and daughter are watching you get destroyed.
Yeah.
I would want a cigarette, too. I would want to go outside for a cigarette, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This was pretty much it. This is the game kind of that changed just this move that Fifth Line shoulder hit. Just the move that, like, changed the meta for the next generation. I say generation, like the next 10 years. All right, people are telling me to advertise my crap. So I'm with CLSmith, and I'm Clausius. I have a YouTube channel, Patreon, and live stream. If you are interested in supporting, check out the Patreon or YouTube channel, or consider subscribing on Twitch. And CL, would you like to advertise anything, since they were making us advertise our crap?
Sure. So yeah, I'm CLSmith15. I primarily am a chess streamer, although I guess it's like 50-50 now. I started playing Go about 2 months ago. I've really been enjoying it as a supplement to playing chess. So now I do about 50-50 chess and Go. I also have a YouTube page that I would like to grow, but it's pretty small right now. It's also CLSmith15. So yeah, I try to stream most days, either chess or Go. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about myself.
So they were asking in chat how close was the game. I looked with the OGS AI, I think Catago. It says black is up by 8.5. So 8.5 for a pro is probably like 25-30 points for us.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot. And if you look at the if you do want a link, I'll post a link in my chat. Yeah, that does count Comey. It does count Comey. 8.5. Black's up by 8.5 with the 7.5 Comey for white.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But
yeah. Was it done for some channel or program? No. This idea came about with so CL Smith is a common collaborator that I collaborate with, and I'm also working on improving my content for YouTube, because I do collaborations on Twitch, but I need to come up with content for YouTube. And one of the skills I'm trying to develop is commentary that's easily understood by all levels. And this was sort of a good idea. This is sort of a collaboration idea to get practice doing that, and also having him here for my target level lets me practice teaching double-digit cues and stuff. So kind of my own thing, but also like a friendship thing kind of thing, to develop just more Go content for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of fun. I mean, I hope everyone in the chat enjoyed it. I mean, it's you know, I've found that in chess, I look at a lot of you know, Grandmaster games, but it's not that I don't really review them myself. I have a few times, but what really helped me learn in chess is looking at, you know, GMs lecturing on other GMs' games. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that would be immensely helpful in Go too, but it's not something that I've really gotten to do much. So
right. So we actually have what we have is a lot of game analysis, but not a lot of game casting. Yeah. And I recently found out that I think that's the term for it. But all of our Go videos with pros and everything else is kind of like one style, and I'm working on developing a second style. a second
Gotcha.
type of content where we cast the game, even if we don't go very deep into variations and stuff. We just
Right.
explain what's happening for the
Just tell
audience
the
to
story
understand.
of the game.
Yeah, just tell the story of the game. So we cast the game instead of analyze the game. Because I could do deep analysis on this, get the AI involved and get another pro. We could do all kinds of variations and stuff. But I think a lot of that content exists already, and I think it's I want to make more stuff for beginners and stuff. So this is so this is sort of a style I'm developing. But if you are interested in that, I do recommend the Redmond reviews. Personally, I have trouble watching them because I don't know, it puts me to sleep. But the material is really, really good. Like if you want like high level analysis and stuff, the Redmond reviews, the AGA channel is good. Yoon Young's reviews and all the pro channel reviews and stuff. This is just something I'm developing as a different type of content that I don't think is out there yet, and I want to make Go a bigger world, right? I want to make stuff for everyone. So this is just this is something that I can contribute to the community. That's why I was doing this. So yeah, do you have any final thoughts about this game? Or about this thing in general?
Well, no, I mean, just thank you for taking the time to sort of walk me through the game, and I enjoyed looking at it, and hopefully, I know we were planning to look at a second game today.
Yeah,
but,
unfortunately.
So
unfortunately, the cat killed that for us.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully we can do this again sometime soon, and maybe look at game 4 and any other games that you're interested in lecturing about. I'm happy to be involved in it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, maybe game 4, and then maybe at some point in the future we can go over Shuzaku's 19 castle games. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe with you and Akash, and just go through the 19 castle games. I think that'd make for not only a good YouTube series, but also a good like Twitch series and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know who Honinbo Shuzaku is?
I have heard of him, yeah, but I don't really know much about him other than that he was a very strong player from a century or two ago.
He was kind of the ghost saint of the 1800s, I guess. You could probably say that argument. Go Sagan was the ghost saint that kind of outshadowed him, but Honinbo Shuzaku was the ghost saint before him, and he was pretty much the player that was a rank stronger than everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, in the world. Japan was pretty much the only players in the world at that time that were good at the game, like at that level. And the castle games was where they played... Hi, cat. Please go away. The castle games were where they played in front of, like, the I think it was the shogunate. Basically, their emperor king dude. And the games were played in front of them. So it was a castle game. So it was like the highest honor and highest level of play. And you're talking... There was no clock. They would sit in front of the board all day and just play it. And yeah, for those of you who like Hikaru no Go, Honinbo Shuzaku is a real person, and they took him and they based the ghost in Hikaru no Go, Sai. They based him off of Honinbo Shuzaku and said that he had possessed Torajiro, which was Honinbo Shuzaku, and Sai was the one who played those games, and now he's in present time playing those same games. So it's like Shuzaku got reincarnated in modern era. How would he perform? And there's just the story in that. So yeah, Shuzaku, he's based off of Shuzaku, but Shuzaku's a real person and a real ghost saint. Now, the reason it's such a big deal, these 19 castle games is a big deal, is because he won every single one of them. It was 19 castle games in a row.
That's not bad. 19-0.
Yeah, 19-0, and these are played over the span of several years, kind of. I forget the dates actually. I actually don't remember the dates. But it's not like a tournament that happened in the same month. You're talking long spans of time. You would come and perform in front of the emperor or the shogunate, and he won it 19 in a row. He was just stronger than everyone else. It was ridiculous. Like, no one could beat him. If he was black, he won. Because there was no komi back then in the I think it was the 1800s. There was no komi back then. So when he was black, he had pretty much mastered black, and he would just win as black. So yeah, he's a very famous guy. If you guys are interested in learning more about him, I do recommend Invincible, which is a Go book, basically about him and his life. It's an amazing read. It's one of my favorite Go books out there. But yeah, maybe that could be something we could do in the future as well.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Shout out to CL Smith. Shout out CLSmith15.
Yeah, let me shout you out in my chat.
Well, it didn't work. I'll just type it. Whatever. Whatever. Shout you out manually. But yeah,
Appreciate
I
it.
really hope you guys enjoyed this. And we'll pretty much wrap up the YouTube video here. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone on YouTube, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys liked CL Smith, check him out on Twitch. Do you have a YouTube?
I do have a YouTube. Yeah, it's CLSmith15. Right now, I'm only posting sort of just clips from my streams, but maybe one day I'll develop some tailored YouTube content. But...
Cool. So yeah, check out his YouTube, check out his Twitch. You guys have my links right below. Yeah, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Twitch. And thanks to everyone who supports me and makes this happen with the Twitch subs and the patrons. If you're interested in supporting that, you can subscribe. You can help me out on Patreon. You can also get private lessons on Patreon. But yeah, if you like this, follow for more, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you guys more in the future.